Falls School Board. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next is our mega statement read by our very big boy pants student today, Steve Olson.
Well, my friend that sits next to me all the time is at a DECA thing, so she will not be here tonight, but she put her reports in the stuff, so we're going to start with the mega results, and that is that all students will graduate prepared with the knowledge, skills, attitude, and behaviors necessary to achieve their personal goals and make a positive impact in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. And what do we have for a student report this?
Well, I'm just going to give her a brief summary rather than the multi-page one. But at the high school, FFA and FBLA celebrated the CTE week with fun dress-up days and a teacher appreciation breakfast. 16 DECA competitors are headed to state. I don't know if this is the event they're headed to now or not. Our men's hockey team are competing at 7 o'clock right now in the playoffs, so I know that you will all be anxious to get home and see how they're doing. The rest of us will be here till 9:30. At the Chippewa Valley High School, some of the JAG students participated in a JAG Spotlight event at Stanley Boyd High School. Congratulations to those of you who did that. And they presented with 3 other schools in front of an audience that included state senators. No pressure, right? Okay. Students also had the opportunity to take a field trip to the CVTC and listen to an Air Force guest speaker, attend a virtual spotlight event, view a Westcom Credit Union budgeting and career pathway presentation, and a field trip to the Professional Hair Design Academy. That's pretty cool. At the middle school, students and staff participated in the Winter Olympics, which included some minutes to win the games, and it was a great way for the entire school to come together. The Chippewa Falls Middle School will be hosting a family teacher conference on the evening of February 20th and 25th. And at Homestead, students created cards for veterans, and each card they made, they received $1 from a local veterans group. By the end, they had raised over $400. Good for them. Hillcrest. As a school, they are working on continuous random acts of kindness. They have a goal of reaching 391 acts of kindness, which is the amount of students and staff combined. Parkview. The Parkview PTO hosted a paint and popcorn night last week. 16 Parkview students were recognized for the quarterly Roar Awards. Do you know what that is?
Oh, they're a lion.
Okay, that's what it is then. A student competed in the Bloomer rope jump contest and was just 12 jumps away from tying a world record, which those are crazy numbers when they start doing that. Stilson, the students met in their happy hives to participate. They're bees, so that's where we got the hives. They met in their happy hives to participate in a chair dance activity from Conscious Discipline. In addition to that, they also competed in a marshmallow and toothpick tower building contest. Not a marshmallow eating contest. I don't know if anybody's ever done that, but that's not pretty. They also are running a readathon with a goal of 100,000 reading minutes. In conclusion, our district continues to show kindness within the buildings and throughout the community. Thank you for your time and attention, and sincerely, Addison Zimmerman.
You're not taking questions?
No, I'm not taking questions.
You might get a portion of the scholarship.
Yes.
I was really good.
All right, board members have any questions? All right, next is public comment section. Do we have any agenda or non-agenda related public comment?
We do not.
All right, we can move on to Showcase a School, one of our favorite activities. At 5.01, we're going to be showcasing Chippewa Valley High School, and Jamie Gansky is going to present on that.
Hi, thank you for having me here tonight. As he mentioned, my name is Jamie Gansky. I have the absolute amazing job of a dual role this year. So I get to be the principal at CVHS as well as the mental health and resiliency coordinator for the district. Tonight I get to present about CVHS. So just really brief tonight because I want to give the bulk of the time to our students to tell you all the wonderful things that is going on at CVHS. So briefly, we have three main programs at our school: the PASS program, the GAP program, and Transition. Some unique things about CVHS is that with the GAP program, the main route that students take is entering what is called our GEDO 2 program. So that is the GED option 2. Because we are an alternative high school, our students are able to go through this GED program but still graduate with a high school diploma. The other unique thing about our school is our JAG program, and that is what we will be highlighting tonight for you. JAG stands for Jobs for America's Graduates. The mission is to empower our nation's young people with the skills and support to succeed in education, employment, and life. JAG provides vital job skills, hands-on experience, and a year of follow-up to support the transition from graduation to employment, military service, and/or post-secondary education. So again, instead of me telling you all about JAG, and Steve did an amazing job of telling you some of the things they've been up to recently, I'm going to let the students tell you about their experiences. And I think one thing that you will notice throughout their speeches is that the people of our school is what truly makes us such an amazing place. I think you'll hear that quite a bit when they talk about Grace, who is the JAG teacher, who is doing an absolutely phenomenal job with these students. So, to get us started, Allison Fassbender is going to be our first student.
Well, good evening, and thank you for your time. Today I'm here to give a student's perspective on JAG, Jobs for America's Graduates. My name is Allison Fassbender, and I'm a senior at CVHS. I've had the privilege of experiencing this program since my sophomore year. When I first joined JAG, I was a soft-spoken, heavily anxious 15-year-old who would sit in the back of my sophomore class praying to any higher power to draw the least amount of attention to me as possible. Then one day, as I was scrolling through the CVHS announcements Google Classroom, I found a posting from Grace Glore, looking for student volunteers to job shadow businesses of their interest in our community. Making an effort to put myself out there, I forced my shaky, sweaty hands to respond to the Google form. Little did I know that action would change everything for me. From that day forward, I grew more and more interested in the opportunities that lay within JAG. Through my past 2.5 years with JAG, I have grown tremendously, not only in terms of my career skills, but also as a person. I have had a chance to create resumes, apply for jobs, accumulate a professional wardrobe, make a plan for after high school, and so much more. Additionally, JAG has given me the space and safety to discover that while I am a sister, daughter, friend, and student, I am also an adaptable leader, hard worker, self-confident individual, and so much more. If this program didn't exist, I have absolutely no idea where I'd be. Before joining JAG, I was this little insecure freshman whose only goal was to make it to Friday. Now, here I am, brave enough to stand in front of you all and share my story. With the resources provided to me within this organization, I have found my passion in life, library science. I now have a plan for my future. I now have a purpose to put my all into my schoolwork. I am now capable of things that I never would have thought possible even just 2 years ago. And for that, I am eternally grateful for this opportunity and our leader, Grace Glore. And now I would like to introduce our next speaker, Kaylee Berg.
Hello, my name is Kaylee. Today I stand before you as a proud senior at Chippewa Valley High School. There we have faced challenges together as well as celebrated achievements. CVHS has empowered me to pursue my education, discover my passions, and unleash my full potential. We have a strong support system and teachers who truly care about us and our future. Without these teachers, I would not be where I am academically. Because of CVHS, I was introduced to a program called JAG. Before JAG, I did not have a job or plans to get one, but our JAG leader, Grace, not only gave lots of positive feedback and support, but also provided outlets and pathways for getting jobs. I have really grown a passion for pursuing an education in the medical field, which I have been encouraged to follow by all my teachers. I was able to become CPR certified through a class that JAG provided. Grace has also walked us through things we needed to know for interviews, and I used that advice and things she taught us to get my current job. Thanks to CVHS and JAG, I have made plans, focused on my education, and improved. Without the programs and support provided, I definitely would not be where I am at today. And I have improved on so many levels, and I'm very thankful for the help and support I have received. Thank you all for your time. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Bella.
Hi, my name is Isabella Miller. I've been at CVHS for 2 years and in JAG for 1 year. I am now a senior. I plan to go to CVTC and pursue nursing. This school has been a breath of fresh air since I got here. Over the past 2 years at CVHS, I've seen my classmates grow and achieve so many things, and it is truly inspiring to see. CVHS and JAG give so many opportunities to learn, gain experience, and feel prepared to take on life after graduation. The teachers and other staff have made CVHS a positive, supportive environment for students. They are incredible and have helped me and many others achieve things we never imagined. Last year, JAG helped me get into my CNA classes and helped me get a job that covered the expenses. With the support of my teachers and grace, I was able to push through, and completing my CNA classes was one of my greatest accomplishments. During my time at CVHS and in JAG, I've learned about many different career pathways and opportunities. I never thought I would be here talking about my education goals and passion in life. The first CNA job I got was really hard, and it wasn't the right fit for me. I wanted to gain more education and experience in nursing, and I wanted to get a new job. Grace helped me look for a new job that would be a good fit for me and that I would really enjoy. We looked to be prepared. We worked on interview questions and mock interviews, and I used all the things that JAG has taught me, and I felt confident that I was going to get the job. I ended up getting the job. JAG, my teachers, and CVHS as a whole is one of my biggest blessings. I've changed my perspective on life, my future, and my education. I never thought I'd be successful before I came to CVHS. Something I've learned being in high school and being in healthcare is that you should always be grateful for everything, even the small things. As I'm here talking to you today, I am healthy, I've got a good family, and I'm able to care for myself. There are so many people in this world that don't have the ability to do the small things we take for granted. Over the last 4 years in high school, I took everything for granted. I wish I could have gone back and done it all over again, but I can't, and I lived in so much regret until I came to CVHS and joined JAG. I've been able to make the best out of the last 2 years in high school. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities and the time I have every single day. Anything can change by tomorrow, so make the best out of it, always be kind, and smile, because you never know what someone else is going through. Positivity and kindness might make their day just a little bit better. Thank you, Grace, and everyone at CVHS for everything you've done and your endless positivity and support. Thank you all for listening to our stories. Our next speaker will be Zoe.
Hello, my name is Zoe Klein, and I've been a student at CVHS and a part of the JAG program for 3 years. When I first joined the program, I definitely didn't value myself, and I definitely didn't have any goals for my future. But the more I went to class, the more interest I got from it. JAG has made me a better student, better listener, and overall a better person. JAG has inspired me to want to go to school and has given me motivation to keep going with my life. I realize now that there's so much more to do after graduation. JAG has also taught me that no matter what job I have, it's still important. Prior to joining JAG, I didn't think of my employment as a stepping stone for the future. It was just a job, and I didn't put any effort into it. Partly because I didn't have the skills, and partly because I didn't have the self-worth. Now I've been working at the same job for over 2 years and been pushing myself to make achievements ever since. I am now looking forward to my next stepping stone and what it brings for me.
Ms. Yancey, can we just give a round of applause? I've been a board member for almost a decade, and that is potentially the best presentation that I've heard. Great things out of you guys. Thank you.
And Grace, just keep wiping.
Just don't mind me.
I'm not a crier, and their speeches got to me at the JAG Spotlight event too. To say that I am proud of these students is an understatement. I think every staff and student at CVHS has made me a better person, and I just want to thank all of the students that came today to share your stories with our board members, to let them know how special that CVHS and JAG has been for you. This was amazing that you were able to share. I'm very excited that we were able to spotlight JAG for you and have you hear from our students' perspectives. One change we made in our schedules this year is that every student has JAG in their schedule regardless of eligibility, and the only time that they will not have JAG during a semester is the one time they have college and careers. And so one thing moving forward that I might be coming to the board is to see if we can have JAG worth a credit moving forward in the future. But thank you again. The last thing we are going to end with is I received a phone call from a former student at CVHS, and he said Mr. Schaller had encouraged him to reach out and share a story a year or two after graduation. And so I thought we would end with a former student telling you why alternative schools are important, how the alternative school has changed him for the better, and what the alternative school does different than the normal high school. So are you ready?
My name is DeJuan Woodard. I'm a previous student of CVHS. I want to say I graduated just back in 2023 there, right after the pandemic. When I first started going to CVS, I had went right after COVID, or right when we started kind of open back up. A lot of the classes were online. I was online for that first part of COVID there, for the first half of that semester. Going in back to school after that, trying to readjust after everything, as most people, and people that weren't in school, we all struggled. Just trying to catch up on credits, whatever it was. I was credit deficient going into my 11th and 12th year. I want to say my first 2 years at the traditional high school, my GPA was a 1.2. Not that I wasn't skipping class or anything like that. It's just that I wasn't doing anything when I was there. I wasn't making any potential of my time when I was there. A big part of going to the alternative school for me was trying to at least catch up, like most people do. When I first started going into the alternative school, big first thing that you notice in the change is just how the teachers and everyone communicate with each other. Everyone there has a lot more of a closer bond. It's a lot more open. I know when I was there, a lot of the teachers we called by their first names, just because it was that personal of a relationship where you could come out and talk to them and speak to them and things like that. By the time I left the alternative school, after 2 years, my final year, my GPA was a 3.8. So it's not that I wasn't capable of doing it, but I just needed someone there that could help me accomplish it, was all. Having teachers like Emily, Joy, Scott, and Lisa all helped me get there. Mr. Schaller was a part of that. I wasn't a part of the JAG program, but I was in DECA. That was a big thing for me the first 2 years, and probably my best 2 classes. The alternative school, by doing that, put us in a lot of positions where we could try and find ways to at least elevate and just do better. And especially when you have a lot of your peers there that are on that same level as you, you kind of motivate each other to do it, work with each other. By the time that I had all finished up, a lot of us had finished early. I know a couple of kids, getting out, I want to say June 8th was our last day, getting out 3-4 days in advance, or, finishing classes in January because they had just had that much help to be able to work ahead. I think that's the biggest part of why the alternative school is different than the normal high school. Having those smaller class sizes, you can really work with a kid more one-on-one. I couldn't really learn in a class size of 30 kids. I just wouldn't pay attention, especially if I have people around me that I know I'm gonna talk to in the halls or whatever it is. By going to the alternative school and having people that are all there to truly help you finish whatever you're trying to accomplish, it makes that 10 times easier. Of course, the teachers at the traditional high school care, but when you have 100 kids you have to watch versus, maybe just 50 or 60 in a day, it makes a big difference. Since leaving the alternative school, I have since started working at a car dealership. I work at a Buick Chevy GMC dealership. I sell new cars and used cars. In the last year, I've sold over 100 vehicles. This month alone, I'm going around 10. A big part of that was having the opportunity to work on things like my resume and things like that, but then also have references and stuff that I can use, using people like Emily as references and people that will truly give their honest opinion on you that helped you work to whatever point you're at. I would say that was the biggest thing for me, was being able to have that help. Without that help, I can't guarantee that I would have graduated, especially being credit deficient. With the help of everybody there, being able to graduate with a 3.8 GPA, especially while trying to take care of family members and other things at the same time, and all the other things that kids have going on at the alternative school, it makes things a lot easier. So just having that as an opportunity, and also having things like JAG and DECA to try and help kids at least think what their next step is going to be, especially when you have a kid that's been credit deficient 2-3 years in a row, and they're not thinking about what's going to happen 2 years after they graduate, a year after they graduate. They're only focused about today. When you have people that can kind of guide you on the right track, that's something that's irreplaceable. When you have good teachers, good staff, and most importantly, people around you that care. When it comes from the teachers to, the lunch lady, checking on you and asking you how your day was. Everything seemed very open. It was the best thing that could happen to me school-wise. It was a big thing that helped me graduate. It's a big reason that I'm here today and able to sell, 100 cars in a year, hoping for more next year. I would say that's all I have at this point. I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me here and speak. I hope to see you guys again.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions for us?
I guess I have a couple. There's another thing that, and this is for you students, and you need to take this back to the rest of your classmates. Every year, we do a walk and learn at your school, and every year, we show up for your graduation. So as a school board, we care about you guys, even though you're not where we can see you every day, but you need to know, all your classmates need to know how much we care about what you are doing. There was another part of this equation here. We did a walk and learn this year. This is the first time we opened up for people outside of the staff and the school board. And there were two proud parents that walked in the walk and learn. Addison, your dad, and if you think you were crying when Addison was talking, you should have heard her dad talk. How proud he was and how the program has helped. And then Bella's mom was there too. And she, like I said, you didn't see a few tears there in the back right now, but there's, so it's the whole spectrum we're dealing with here. It's the kids, it's the families, and how we're impacting them. So you need to take that back and tell them that the school board does care.
I think Mr. Schaller was right to have you come in here and talk to us tonight. That's awesome. I mean, the five of you speaking like that, and we can just all picture, all of you as sophomores could have went the wrong direction. And this school could have failed you, but because we have this alternate school, I mean, this is just incredible. We have 5 young adults that are going to be success stories. So thank you for coming tonight. Yes, thank you.
Welcome to state, because the meeting's really exciting. Hockey game, right? That was. What is the hockey game? Do we have an update? Not yet. All right.
You did great.
Mr. Woodard, if you want to leave your card here too, just in case you
Somebody
wind up
needs-
selling an extra 5 or 6 vehicles.
I unfortunately don't have any with me today.
Mr. Olson knows where to find you. He's always in the market for a new vehicle.
Thanks for coming. I gotta make it. Mrs. Kern, good luck following that. I know, I'm like, come on. Jeez, you can do just blow by. Everybody's doing fine in science. Let's just,
Well, we might move 6.01 to the end. I'll let you go right at 9:30. All right, 6.01 is academic performance in science. Let me pull out the sheet that I need. All right, okay. Members of the board have received the CEO's monitoring report on our 2.1 academic performance science, 2.1C. It is now the board's responsibility to consider the report as evidence of reasonable organizational progress in this area. Temporary superintendent program.
Check.
temporary.
Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Sue Kern, has developed this monitoring report for our review. This time I would ask her to provide an overview of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Coleridge. So before I get rolling, honestly, right, as I sit and I listen to these students who have been faced with so many personal challenges and then challenges academically, and I wrote down what defines student success, right? Is it every Wisconsin Forward score? Is it every benchmark score? Like there's so much more to our kids and what they're learning and what they're doing and how they're going through their whole academic journey that I know this information is important. There's so much more to each of our students than the score that they get on an assessment. So I'll start with that. So based on the results criteria that I will share in this monitoring report this evening, it is my determination that we are not making reasonable progress in the state assessment targets set forth by the board and are making reasonable progress in our district standard-based assessment targets. The first two targets for reasonable progress are stated as on the Wisconsin State Assessment in Science, we will increase the percent of students scoring and meeting advanced, and on the Wisconsin Assessment in Science, we will reduce the percent of students scoring developing and approaching. As you can see with the new terminology, the wording of those proficiency bands made a shift. So when I am sharing the data from the year prior, the names of those proficiency bands have changed. And therefore I had to change them on this report as well. Science performance is assessed at the state level on our forward exam in grades 4, 8, and the pre-ACT secure exam in grades 9, 10, and the ACT at grade 11. The results of the 23 and 24 administration of these assessments are shown in the graphs that you received in this report. In science, our student overall proficiency percentages on the forward exam in grade 4 and 10 saw an increase in student proficiency levels. In grades 8, 9, and 11, we saw a decrease from the previous year. Although we witnessed a decline in proficiency levels in grades 8 and 9, in those grades, our students did do better than the overall state average. So this is where it becomes challenging for me to make a determination because in certain of our grade bands, our students are moving and growing, and in other areas, they're not. And so when we look at the overall proficiency levels on the Wisconsin Forward, and that's the determination, even though we're growing in certain areas and maybe not in others, and yet we're above the state average in all areas, that's where I have a challenge as far as making a determination. It should be noted that the 22-23 school year was the first year that our 9th and 10th grade students took the pre-ACT. Therefore, the 23 benchmark score in our new baseline at those grade levels. The pre-ACT secure scores are predictive of how well students may perform on the ACT when they reach 11th grade, as well as a predictor of their readiness for college level coursework. Our 9th grade students meeting proficiency fared better than the state average, and our 10th grade students meeting proficiency was below the state average. Additionally, we did see growth occurring from 9th grade to 10th grade and from 10th grade to 11th grade. As our data shows, we saw nice gains at the elementary level from 23 to 24. We credit this as an intentional adjustment to the scope and sequence in elementary science to ensure that our students are gaining exposure to the standards and the strands assessed heavily on the Wisconsin Forward in 4th grade. At the elementary level, dedicated time has been allotted to balance science and social studies instruction with our English language arts work. This paired with the implementation of our cross-disciplinary text in English language arts leads to an anticipation that we will continue to grow the number of our students meeting proficiency in science and social studies both. There continues to be a concern with regard to the percentage of our students who are not meeting proficiency levels as established by the Wisconsin Forward at the 8th grade level. Our instructional specialists have been working with the middle school science teachers to take a deep dive into the specific areas that our students seem to be struggling with and to make assessment and scope and sequence adjustments as necessary. I'd like to give credit to Amanda Hill-Hobley and Marlena Lomé, who have spent time working with all of the PLCs at the middle school to dive into the Wisconsin Forward and to come up with action plans for not only science, but every content area that we have related to the scores that we're seeing. At the high school level, the instructional approach of modeling continues to show an increased engagement with our students in coursework in the student-centered, inquiry-based approach to learning. Classroom assessment proficiency levels continue to show very favorable results. Finally, we continue to encourage and support applied experiential-based coursework and experiences for our students to allow them to apply their knowledge and skills in the area of science through internships, independent studies, and dual credit certification coursework. Across the K-12 system, the area of science is in phase 4 through 7 of our curriculum process. Through the collaboration efforts in these phases, these key strands are the areas of focus. Continued review and revision of the developed universal curriculum to address these concerns is an ongoing process for us. This includes data reviews of common assessment outcomes and making adjustments to lessons and assessments based on student outcomes and inputting the curriculum assessment and lesson revisions into Embark. A significant amount of time and energy has been dedicated by our teachers and our department in entering the courses into the science area so that our curriculum is visible and is updated and transparent and accessible to all teachers and the public. The Curriculum Instruction Assessment Task Force has been and will continue to provide curriculum, instructional support, and coaching to all of our staff aligned to the actions that are communicated by the academic chairs in their 7-year curriculum work plans. At this time, I will take any questions that you might have with regarding to this report.
At this time, I ask for the board's acceptance of the report.
All right, board members, we look for a motion to accept this report as our own so that we can discuss it further.
So moved.
Motion by McElwain, is there a second? Second by Beer, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Academic performance, our 2.1C is now ours to discuss further. And science. Board members have any additional questions as we discuss using our results monitoring report approval process, which language to use?
So what you're saying is we are above the state average, but we're not bettering ourselves against ourselves. And that our 8th grade program seems to be struggling more. Would you say is it a class thing or is it a program thing?
Class. So when I get the results, I go in and then I have conversations with the administration and the teachers themselves. And I had the opportunity in November to meet with the 8th grade science teachers, learning that last year one of our they're all very strong, but one of our veteran teachers was out on an extended leave during the time that the forward exam was being administered. And the individual that was subbing was doing as good of a job as they could, but they were not the veteran teacher who could manage and make sure that the students were being prepped well for that assessment and that the actual administration of the assessment, to my understanding, did not go as well as it likely would have had that person been in the classroom. And when we went to that deep dive into the data, I mean, we can look at individual student names, and when we were going through that, it was a major aha, right? That there were many students who demonstrate proficiency continually in that 8th grade class, but on that particular assessment, on that particular day, did not fare well because they weren't necessarily engaged fully in that assessment.
We're confident that we're on the right track with this going forward.
100%.
And there's no chance we're gonna change this curriculum. Like, this is a 7-year program or whatever you're saying, so, I mean, that's always throws a wrench in things when you change it. So we're gonna stay on track with this then going forward then.
My hope is that whoever comes into this position will continue to manage our curriculum revision process on that 7-year cycle. Because we just completed a 7-year cycle. Social studies and science were reviewed in my first year. And so the state will go through, I don't suspect with the amount of revision in science and social studies that took place at the state level, that there will be a significant shift as there was 7 years ago in both science and social studies. It was pretty well blown up. And so there might be minor tweaks, but it won't be anything where we're completely starting from scratch.
I guess finally, the only thing that I would say is even if your numbers were all positive, I would still ask you how we can do better. Because that's just who we are as a district and a board, is we always want to keep getting.
So I can say continue to support the staff. The staff are critical. Folks have updated resources, and you as a board have supported the purchase of new and updated resources, materials, workspaces that are aligned to the necessities for our students. I think we're in good shape that way. But it's the staff. We can have the best buildings, we can have the best curriculum, the best materials, but it's those individuals that are in front of kids every day who are passionate about what they're teaching and who they're teaching that make all the difference in the world. And right, I listened to this young man talk about, for him, having a school that allowed him to be more personal with the staff, having smaller class sizes, so he was getting more continued feedback. That made a difference for that young man, and I would suspect it would make a difference for many. Not that there is necessarily research that shows that smaller class sizes are guaranteed to have a high impact in student achievement, but I can tell you as a person who taught many years, it was far different for me when I taught 15 students than when I taught 36 students, because John Hattie, in research will tell you that feedback is one of the most important influences on student learning. And if I can't give immediate, timely feedback to students because I have 30 students in the class that I'm trying to manage and give feedback to in a timely manner, that makes a difference. So that would be my recommendation. And get a rock star like me. No, I'm just kidding.
She wants to be a
No, but right, just keeping the staff that have that passion.
Get the contract.
Right. Unless board members have any other questions for using our results policy motion language, a motion.
I move that the district has made reasonable progress with noted exceptions on R21C science.
Motion by McKillop. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The board finds that the district has made reasonable progress in R2.1C academic performance.
Noted exceptions.
With no exceptions, right?
Can I just make one more comment? I know we're probably moving on, but since it's the last one I'll ever have to do, get to do. I think that the areas that we're looking at need to be refined. And I think the way that things are worded, it just, right, the first two areas, just, they're coupled. So to combine those together, I think would be important. And I just think maybe even breaking it down by 4th grade, 8th grade, right? Breaking it down by grades may be a better way of making, it would be easier for somebody to make a determination, so.
So the monitoring reports belong to the superintendent. So those indicators that you provide to us can be chosen by you, and that's when we accept it, we're saying that we're accepting the indicators you're providing us, because our policy just refers to, you know, the science and whatnot. So we may need to have like a board workshop or whatnot, because we're gonna have a couple of new people. And, you know, I do recommend that when you change a monitoring report, like, kind of like our policies, right? Green added, red crossed out, so the board can see. It's just a transparent thing, and
So it's not necessary that you approve the indicators before they are brought forth. That's done at the time of the meeting. Good to know now that I.
Very good explanation.
Well, you know, I was gonna say, Chris will give you her reports if you want, I'm sure she will.
No, but that is, that's.
sorry, I should have onboarded you years ago.
No, you probably did. I just-
It's a lot.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kern.
Thank you.
Do we have a score?
1-0.
Memorial.
Can't see.
Oh, jeez. It's 1-0, but we don't know who has the one.
I mean, look how blurry that is. Can you read?
We're rooting for the wall. No, who's home?
Memorial.
Memorial.
I must, if I'm reading it right, I would think they grew up.
Okay.
Well, that's wrong.
Home's usually on the left, right?
Yeah. No, home's
Well-
usually on the right.
Home's on the right.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe hockey's different.
Oh, it is. They're definitely different.
Well,
Board
somebody's
cons-
ahead. Do you have a score for us?
Cards are up 1-0.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was wrong. I stand
Donna.
corrected. Somebody want to make a motion on that?
Motion that Martineau is corrected.
Yes. I second that motion.
All right, the board's consent agenda is presented here. Does anybody have any questions regarding the board's consent agenda or request the removal of any items from the consent agenda for separate consideration? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the board's consent agenda as presented.
I motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Martineau, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Olson, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The board's consent agenda is approved as presented. Next is the superintendent's consent agenda. Would anybody like to request any item removed from the superintendent's consent agenda for separate consideration? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to accept the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Martineau. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by McGillum. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The superintendent's consent agenda is approved as presented. Next, matters reserved for board action, 9.01. There are no items removed from the board's consent agenda. 9.02, there are no items removed from the superintendent's consent agenda. 9.03 is consideration of a request for detachment of property from district. I have to go to a different script here. All right, this is a petition to alter school district boundary by Agenda item 9.03 is consideration of a request for detachment of property from the district. This agenda item includes a public hearing. So I will look for a motion to temporarily suspend our regular rules to allow petitioners to speak and present during the hearing. I will note that they're not going to be here tonight because one of them is, or they're sick with the flu, but nonetheless, we're gonna go through the motion and we're gonna do this same thing. So I would look for a motion to temporarily suspend our regular rules to allow petitioners to speak and present during a hearing.
So moved.
Motion by McKillop, is there a second?
Second. Dennis can do it.
Second by Fear, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, motion carries. The regular rules are temporarily suspended to allow petitioners to speak and present during this hearing. We have now begun the hearing. Chad Trowbridge, can you please provide a brief introduction about the public hearing?
Thank you, Mr. Check. This is something that you don't see very often. In fact, it's been 15 years to the date since we've had a request for detachment. But by statute, property owner has the right and the ability to request detachment from our district and to attach to another district. I think the reason why you don't see many of these happen any longer since the advent of open enrollment, they just haven't been as necessary. So for us, we haven't seen these very frequently. Other districts sometimes see them a little more frequently than we do. But the family did get their petition in by the required deadline of February 1st. So you can see that they have kind of a unique property here that sits on a boundary and is a little bit unique. But tonight, as you review this, there's one of three things that you can do as a board. You could approve the detachment, allow the property to be detached from the district. You can deny the detachment, or you can take no action, which also constitutes a denial. So that's a little overview. As Mr. Check said, our petitioners are not able to join tonight, so please reflect that they were not in attendance. So I'll try to answer any questions I can about the petition if you'd like. Otherwise, we can move on to a recommendation if you'd rather do that.
Is this attached to the property or to the people? I mean, if their kids are all on to school and graduate and stuff, but it stays with the property and wherever the next homeowner is?
It does.
So it's in perpetuity.
So what does this mean for property taxes and voting and all that?
So they're taxpayers in our district, they vote in our district.
And if they were detached, would that stay the same, or would they then be taxpayers in a different district, at least for the school district?
They would be taxpayers in a different school district, they would vote in that separate school district.
So what would the incentive for a school district be to say, we're gonna voluntarily give up this, however many half $500,000 worth of our tax base? Why would we just wanna do that?
And that's why it doesn't happen very frequently. There's not a great reason to do that. Sometimes, and a lot of this I think emerged, late 50s, early 60s when school districts were coming together. There was sometimes trading of property, things that made more sense to be in a district than another. In this case, there's not a trade in question here. It's just a straight detachment.
So, well, this is the time now for the petitioners, Sarah and Adam Voss, to come forward to present their petition. Understanding they're not gonna be here, why don't board members take a few minutes, unless everyone's already done that, look at the petition that's on our agenda, see if you have any questions. This is essentially their presentation for tonight, so.
I would add too, this has gotten a little more technical than it was in 2010. I would like to thank Angela for getting very smart with this. Over the course of the last few weeks, she's done a lot of legwork on this. I appreciate that.
And I did look at all this, and their kids have been open enrolled in the Eau Claire School District. There's nothing prohibiting them from continuing to open enroll, right?
Right.
That's what I thought.
Is it?
I think this would set a precedence that we don't want to have, especially since we're bordered by so many other school districts. Mr. Check said, there's really no incentive for us to do this. And as long as they can open enroll, I feel they're still getting what they need. I just don't want this next year come back and there's 3 more properties that we gotta address because they don't like the boundaries as we drive them for elementary school, say, for example. So I think this is a precedent I don't wanna set.
This, circle here, okay, never mind, I think I'm understanding, that's just a closer up version of this. Interesting you talk about a trade because, you know, in terms of looking like a gerrymandered district to a certain extent, I can see how back then they would have said, okay, maybe this district goes to Eau Claire and then those acres go here and we straighten it out a little bit.
There were a lot of handshakes back then.
But they built in 2018, so this wasn't like 50 years ago and things have changed. So.
Do board members have any questions about the petition? Typically, we would then ask them to Sarah and Adam, but if board members have questions, maybe Chad can answer the questions. Hearing none, now is the time to hear the recommendation from administration. Chad Trowbridge.
Our recommendation would be that you either take no action or deny the request. The reasons for the proposed attachment would reduce the total property value of the district.
Does the board have any questions for either Mr. and Ms. Boss or Mr. Trowbridge? If not, I would look for a motion to either approve the request to alter the district boundaries to detach the property from the Chippewa Falls Area Unified School District and to attach it to the Eau Claire Area School District, or to deny the request to alter school district boundaries to detach the property from the Chippewa Falls Area Unified School District and to attach it to the Eau Claire School District. And if no motion at all is made, then that will be our taking no action.
The only question I have before we do that, they mentioned that their main concern is the sports. Is there any particular reason why open enrolling into Eau Claire would prevent them?
Not at this time. The only thing I can think of is if they change their open enrollment status to a different district, there are some eligibility requirements that do follow that.
I'd make a motion that we deny the request for detachment of the property from the district.
Motion by McElwain. Is there
Make a second on that one.
second by Martineau? Any further discussion? I've never done this before, so I don't know that this requires a
It says voice.
voice vote.
Yep.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The board has denied, let's see, read this in particular. Oh, I gotta do this too. Okay. The board has voted to deny the request to alter school district boundaries. Therefore, the board must adopt a resolution. I would look for a motion to adopt a resolution for an issuance of an order of denial or.
Just that one, since you
Just
did
that one, because that's what we did.
Okay.
Yeah. Motion.
Motion by Martineau. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by McElwain. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There are no other petitions to consider, so I will look for a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Make a motion to adjourn back to the public hearing.
I think. This says make a motion to adjourn the public hearing. What does that mean
So
exactly?
you started the
suspended, we
hearing when
already
you
did it.
suspended the rules?
Yeah, so we have to go back to the board
Adjourning that
meeting.
small part.
So we're adjourning the public hearing.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Going back to adjourning.
So motion by Martineau to adjourn the public hearing. Is there a second? Second by McKillop. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, so we are now out of that portion and back to
Going to our regularly scheduled.
our regularly scheduled program. All right, so
We have a hockey update? Because we're adjourning one thing, you're going back. Okay.
9.04 is consideration of excellence in education banquet sponsorship. So this is something we can do relatively quickly. I think every year we ask how much we gave last year and somebody tells us and then we make a motion.
I move to approve the 1250 platinum.
50.
I make a second to that.
Motion by McKillop, second by Martineau. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the consideration of senior graduation party donation.
How much is that?
500.
I move to approve a donation of $500 to the 2025 Chi-Hi McDonald senior graduation parties.
Motion by McKillop. Is
I'll
there a
second
second? Second by McElwain. Any further discussion?
Sorry.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is 9.06 is consideration of the policy committee meeting notes, or hearing notes, and that would be presented first by Dennis Fear, chairperson.
Well, we had another very exciting and eventful policy meeting.
No food.
Wow. It's all about what you make it. You know?
No food?
No food.
We're working on that. So we went through a handful of policies, no major revisions. That really mostly just grammatical errors and other minor things of that nature. But did you have anything to add, anybody?
Were you
Other
as
than that, it was
high on the meeting as Mr. Fear?
It was pretty exciting.
Oh, it was exciting, okay, I just wanted to make sure you
Quite
weren't
the event.
inflating that.
quite the event. And we're gonna do it again real soon.
Unless Sherry or Peggy has anything to add, we would look for a motion to approve the 2025 policy committee meeting notes as presented.
Motion.
Motion by Martineau. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by McKillop. Before we vote, you know you don't get paid by the motion, right? Okay.
I just want to keep this moving along.
All those in favor say, I appreciate it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I interject something really quick? So, it's still 1-0. And
I was gonna
Okay.
say, I was gonna score.
Act 20, there will be policy language that will need to be approved before July 1. So know that we'll be bringing that language forward. Neola is working on that language right now. So when that hopefully gets into our hands, we'll get it to you in May or June.
Thank you. And then consideration of Neola policy revisions. Again, Dennis Fear.
Well, this is, right, is that right, Peggy? Yeah, it's, these are attached to the actual ones, the actual revisions that were gone through and made, so this is what the meeting was actually about.
This was a regular periodic update from Neola, so it does include, as Mr. Fear mentioned earlier, just some
Grammatical.
not necessarily changing the spirit of any policies, but just going through their legal review and update.
And then the Title IX and it's included in here too.
It is included.
Yeah.
So the recommended action is to approve the Neola policy revisions as presented.
So moved.
Motion by McKillop. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 1.01 is the student representative application and interview process. The application window is February 21st to March 14th. The interview dates and committee are to be determined. Last year, the interviews were held on May 16th and scheduled between 4:30 and 8. The interview committee chose to interview all 8 applicants. Keep that in mind if you want to be on this committee. Interviews were in person for 20 minutes with 5 minutes in between interviews. Steve Olson and Sherry Jasper conducted those interviews. The student will receive a $500 scholarship at the May 2026 meeting. The current representative will introduce the 2025 rep at the May 25th meeting. So Ms. Goodman sent out information to all the juniors to encourage students to reply. So as far as we're concerned, I think what I would need is the interview committee by what, the next meeting?
Usually you decide at the April meeting, the reorganization meeting.
Okay. All right, so we got some time for that. But I think, you know, start circulating interest, send me an email if you are interested in that. Next, 10.02 is the second Friday in January pupil count.
Can I ask a question though?
Yes.
Because this says interviews were held, so we don't know the date for the interviews
No,
yet.
we don't
this
yet.
year, right?
That
Okay.
was just last
That's
year.
what I thought.
Yeah, yep. Okay, second Friday in January pupil count, Mr. Trowbridge.
Thank you. You have attached the official pupil count numbers from the Friday, January 10th. Second Friday in January. Just a couple highlights here, or early. I'm gonna compare January to January, and then I'll give you a January, September update. So January to January, this year to last school year at this time, we're down 1 early childhood student, 27 4K students, 18 in grades K through 5, 30 at the middle level, 13 at the high school, so down 66 total overall. But if you compare to our September count, we are up 12 from our September 2024 count.
Across the board, or?
Yeah, just some move in, move out, it's just kind of changes.
It's not like.
Is this in line with our current trending of
It is.
slight downward?
Not a surprise.
Anything, have anything stick out at you as far as class sizes, everything?
Yeah, I mean, we still got some areas that, you know, we have been keeping a close eye on, and at this time of year, we're deep into budget and staffing for next year, so, you know, that incoming 4K number typically usually corresponds to about what our kindergarten enrollment is gonna be, so that number we're expecting to be down a little bit, just making sure that we're prepared.
Board members have any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Trowbridge. Next is our compensation study update, district services, school nurses, OTs, PTs, SLPs, school psychs, and co-curriculars.
All right, thank you. So just an update on where we are at in our compensation study, reviewing those individuals and the co-curriculars as President Check shared. We're at the February meeting, so we have some shifts from the January update, just based on making proper placement of people on the new compensation scales, and then some handbook updates. So for the handbook updates, currently we have a running list on our executive summary of about 44 changes that we want to discuss with our committee that's coming together, made up of staff members who abide by that handbook. So we'll be doing that in the spring. Additionally, this was a year selected for legal counsel to review our handbook, so I'll be working with them and their feedback as well, specifically on areas that they see we need to change, and then making sure the areas that we're looking to make any adjustments to fit within their recommendations and parameters. Just a reminder, we did make some changes to the handbook back in December around remote learning. We did use one of our remote learning days, and I think having experienced it now for the first time, we've worked out some of the kinks, but overall, I think it went as well as it could. From the staffing perspective, in that regard, just having not experienced that before. So these are the cost outs of if we, again, kept everyone on their current scale, what the increase would be with the new study and the movement on the scale, again, with the board's guiding principles as well as the districts. We agreed that no one would take a decrease in their compensation, and so everyone would be moved to the next step that would give them an increase. So we looked at both what would happen if we use the 51st percentile as our midpoint, as well as the 61st for our midpoint. And again, the ones in blue are the ones that are being moved from the certified or the teaching scale off onto their own scale. Any questions on that slide? So then our co-curricular group has been meeting as well. We looked at the work that they had done a few years back, made sure that everything aligned to sports with similar commitments, working to refine our job descriptions and expectations of our co-curricular advisors and coaches. But the proposal of the co-curricular group would be to use the base teacher salary to determine how we would compensate the co-curricular schedule. So what that would mean is our base right now is at 43,000, but if people still support this process, that we wouldn't necessarily have to study as deeply the co-curriculars because it would shift based on teacher base salary increases every 3 years, as opposed to going through and following a formula and making comparisons. We could still look at our comparable districts, but we felt like looking at our comparable districts and looking at the increase, that they were pretty similar and didn't leave a lot of difference. They also are proposing that each year, the co-curricular, each consecutive year, the co-curricular supervisor, advisor, coach would receive a 2% increase from the year prior to help with retention in those specific coaching or advising roles. So that's why that would show an increase for next year. We are talking that we would, in combination with the compensation process work that's being done, we would like to see the co-curricular get moved back on the same cycle as the teacher cycle, because that's when then they would move and progress if we had approved to use the base teacher salary. So it all happened at the same time as opposed to on different years.
Sarah, the 2% increase, would that be like, so it's for the individual or the position?
The individual. So the individual would have to remain in the same position to experience an increase in compensation.
So a returning, not a new.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And we also talked that so our proposal would be that everybody would get a 2% increase going into next year, because we agreed that co-curriculars would be studied, and that would just be the co-curricular schedule for 25-26. And then in 26-27, we'd make a scale of that pulled out of 2% over time, because that would then align with the new base salary for certified staff. So there would hopefully be less confusion with the movement.
But if a coach just left and then a new coach came in that next year, wouldn't they still get that 2%?
No, they go back to base. The 2% is based on the years of service or the seasons of service.
They would get this 2% because this is.
Correct, because this is what,
So does that mean that our coaching salary is not gonna be competitive? Cause I mean, if we've had Rachel here for 70 years, and now somebody else comes in, they're coming in at what, $5 to coach?
they will not come in at $5. If I can just have a moment to pull up
But they wouldn't come in less than what the previous coach was.
There'll still be a base.
there would still be a base. So right now, Coach Rako just gets a base and he never gets an increase. He always gets $5,
Bankrupt.
right?
Well, I mean, but if you have a 2% increase and you're putting it on the entire budget, then doesn't that mean that you're putting it on every single coach, no matter what?
For this year, yes.
Even the new coaches?
For this year, yes, but in the future, we would create a scale that would be for each of the different positions. And so we work to get resignations so that we know, are we budgeting and putting in the increase in our staffing to reflect continuation of coaches, or if we're gonna have to get new coaches.
The problem right now is they're not on a 3-year schedule. So the 2% is to get us back on that schedule, and then we would be, like the other positions, would be looking to update those as we go forward.
Kind of align it with the base
Teacher
teacher
base
salary.
But see, I still don't understand that, because I first of all, I don't agree with coaches getting a bump based on longevity. I think the coach's salary should go up to be competitive. If a new coach comes in It's not like a new superintendent. We expect them to be up and running right away. Sorry, superintendent. Take some practice. I mean,
This
a
is
coach,
just for
so,
this year. That,
but I'm
But I
saying,
see what
I
you're
look at
saying.
coaching salary as being, that's the salary that Chi-High pays for this job. I don't care if you've been here for 30 years, you've been here for 1 year, this is what we're paying our coach.
Yeah, and
So
that's,
my understanding
and
of
that's
it.
what we have been doing. But our committee felt like they wanted to help to retain coaches because it would be an increase. So what we've always done is, this is the set amount and it never changes unless base changes and increases. And so they felt that by giving a 2% increase to the people who have been here, it would help to keep them in their position so we wouldn't have so much turnover, and that our base we would still look at to stay competitive, but we would use the teacher base salary to help that. I see what you're saying is you if it's $10,000 for
Yeah, I mean, we're
volleyball
not voting on
coach.
this right now, so I understand.
But no, I wanna
Right.
take the feedback back to the committee because we meet
So,
a couple weeks.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand it.
so what I would say, Dave, is where it more applies is like your middle school levels or your junior JV levels. So if you have a middle school coach getting $2,500 a year to coach girls basketball, and now he'll get an automatic 2% raise, so that'd be $50. But then you're gonna pay him 2% every year he stays on to retain that position. So we're not always looking for middle school coaches. Does that basically sum it up?
Yeah, that's it, but I still
It's
do
not a big
understand.
number, but there is some incentive.
And every 3 years,
We would still make sure that we're competitive with our comparables. And so if we're not competitive with this model, then we need to adjust that base, but wanted to try to give a little bit more to that base pay to help with the retention and acknowledge the years that advisors and coaches have put in.
And again, I'm just asking questions to understand it.
Yep.
When would this essentially come to a vote where we would be getting a recommendation, this is what we're gonna approve or disapprove?
March.
Okay.
so are coaches are evaluated every year or?
They are, yes.
So, I mean, would that be something that you might wanna, because 2% increase with this?
With the
Ba-
acceptable evaluation of performance.
Some of our records might be hard to convince our constituents to give a 2% increase just for being here another year. In this particular season.
I just want a clarification for, this year, we'll be looking, at voting on a 2% increase. And then next year, when you do the teachers' compensation, this group will be included in there?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and then,
That's why I was saying this, the 2% just on top right now is to get us to a point where we can get on a cycle. Yeah.
with the teaching scale, but I would think that a lot of the work that they did this year would lead into what they might want to bring forward next year.
Coaching has always been based on a percentage of base, right?
Not always here, no.
Used to be.
When I first started, it was just a set amount. You know, you had a list of coaching jobs, and this one pays 1,000, this one pays 2,000. It was based on how much work, like if you were a head coach or, and so we moved off of that a long time ago. Then it became tied to, essentially, it would be a percentage of the base pay.
And then,
I think what we're trying to do, and I don't know if I agree or not, but I understand the thinking, that is, how do we retain coaches if we're not giving them an incentive to return? And it's not just head coaches, it's, you know, like all the sports that we have at the middle school.
but
Yeah,
it's
and
not
advisors
just
and,
sports, it's DECA and forensics and
yes.
debate and it's everything.
correct.
So,
But then we also have volunteer positions, do we not?
We do still have some, our staffing plan will bring forward some changes in some of those volunteer positions this year. Thank you for that feedback, and then just one more, so according to my schedule that I was given, the March would be the action, and then that would be part of the balanced budget in April. Additional questions or feedback for me to take back to the groups?
All right, hearing none, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Noor. The 2024-2025 mid-year scorecard progress report is next, and we'll start with Mr. Trowbridge.
Thank you. We're in our fourth generation of our 3-year strategic plan, and we are at a midpoint of year 2 of a 3-year plan. And we just thought it would be important to give you an update on our progress this year. So we're going to lean on our pillar leaders to provide you an update tonight. And we'll start with student success, and Ms. Kern is here.
Perfect, thank you. So the student success pillar, our primary focus this year has been on the development of a student success dashboard at all levels, so in elementary, middle, and high school. Myself, Katie Koppenbarger, and Scott Marty are the pillar leaders at the district level. Scott works primarily and closely with the high school team. I'm working with the middle school team, and Katie's been working with the elementary team on the development. I have to give a huge shout out to Mike Burrow, who is taking our vision and the metrics that we're providing to him and creating these dashboards based on the feedback from the building leadership teams that are talking about what specific metrics we want to pull in specifically at the elementary and middle level. The high school has had a student success dashboard now for 3 years. And so we're focusing on areas specifically that we've been having trouble collecting on, which is like volunteerism and community service. But we have a mechanism now for collecting that data at all levels. So those dashboards should be much more accurate when they're presented to the board. Ultimately, you know, again, I won't be here, but I do feel like when we talk about the whole student, the whole child, and where they're moving and how they're doing collectively in all of the key areas of learning, that student success dashboard replaces or is used as an artifact to measure how students are doing. Right now, the decision at the elementary level was that we would just look at 5th grade, so like a culmination, then middle school, 8th grade, and then at each grade level, 9 through 11, with the ultimate goal that 100% of our graduating seniors are college or career ready by the time they graduate from Chi-High. We're also deep in to professional development. I have to give another huge shout out to Katie Koppenbarger and our elementary instructional team, our academic chairs, our building principals, who have been navigating Act 20. It is a beast, and they have done so valiantly, and our staff at the elementary level, specifically with what they have been tasked with to accomplish in professional development and training, and just the work that they're doing with students has been phenomenal. And so we continue to focus on that, which obviously has an impact on student achievement, specifically in the areas of English language arts. We did develop a definition for community connected learning, because that was one of the metrics that we were pulling into our dashboards. So now, based on that definition, which is consistent in elementary, middle, and high school, we can pull that data, and Mike can pull that consistently for all of those levels. So I'm excited for the team who will be able to share those dashboards. I think that report we moved to August, because then we would have the data that we need to populate those dashboards, and hopefully all 3 of them are ready for consumption by you at that August board meeting.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to Ms. McMasters, Caring Culture.
Caring culture, yes. The first 2 years of our 3-year plan, we really focused on students and, as it says up there, emotional self-regulation and sense of belonging. And in this last go-round, our pillar really felt like we needed to focus as much on adults and the connections and the relationships that adults have and that are working in our buildings with our students, and how important it was for us to kind of have some actions around that as well. So a lot of things have been happening, but specifically with Caring Culture, our actions included our building administrators and department leaders creating opportunities for our staff to gather informally. That doesn't sound like much, but it creates what a lot of staff need, which is connections at work with their peers, and the time to do that because our staff are extremely busy. They are being asked to do more than they've ever been asked to do. And so creating these opportunities kind of outside of the day that people can have to just get to know each other and to be in a different know each other personally. Supporting connections for our students through activities, clubs, and extracurriculars. We really wanted to make that extra push because, as you know, when we see a lot of our students who are struggling, what we also see is no connections to extracurriculars. So we've been tracking that data, and so far this school year, 812 high school students and 520 middle school students have been involved in activities, clubs, and extracurriculars, which is already at the level of where we were at the end of last year. So I do believe we're going to see that we've seen an increase in that. What we've asked is that our buildings, our staff that are working with students, all staff, whoever that may be, really just take that little extra effort to kind of try to help students get involved. And so that appears to be enough. That's unduplicated numbers. So there are students that are in 2 or 3 activities, clubs. That's an unduplicated number, 812 individual students and 520 middle school students. So we were happy to see that mid-year. And then central office administrators, Caring Culture Pillar really felt like it was important. They wanted to see central office administrators in buildings more, that they want to know that we know what's happening, and I think that probably goes for the board too. I think the learning walks are a good piece of that. So I think staff wanting to know that we do know what they're doing and we appreciate what they're doing. So we have increased that as well. Another piece I didn't put in here for elementary is that we had a couple days of training in conscious discipline at the elementary level and have continued to look at that emotional regulation piece for our elementary students too, and are working on that 5-year plan of how to improve and increase using conscious discipline as well. So we are on track with our actions for this school year, and we think we're going to see some good results at the end of the year.
So if you draw that connection, right, that even though we are managing pillars, our work is so interconnected. So when Chris is talking about specific actions related to students becoming more engaged in extracurricular and activities, that's one of the metrics on the student success dashboard. So the work that's being done within those pillar areas complement each other significantly.
So in our people pillar, we also overlap with the caring culture pillar and working toward self-regulation and student behavior. So we've been partnering with the conscious discipline, and we'll be continuing to do some work at the secondary to review their data of this year, their behavior data. That has seen a significant decrease in office discipline referrals and having some opportunity for more conversation around what's going well and why that's happening, as well as what challenges still exist. We also do have people in place from different employee groups across the district serving on our student behavior subcommittee, our sub-shortage subcommittee, and then our compensation process review as well. They are meeting regularly, working to accomplish the charge put before them. All of our supervisors who round with our staff members and do a regular check-in have been intentional about finding out from our employees why they stay. And we are in partnership right now with Kathy Strecker in the PR office and Mr. Sinkins, 2 of his students at the high school who are recording or video recording our staff members with their reasons for why they stay in the district, to be able to push back out to their colleagues to have that nice reminder that this is a good place to be, as well as to use as a recruitment tool moving forward as we're coming into hiring season. Also, we've been looking at our progress monitoring data monthly that's shared out with each of the departments or schools for the Our People pillar, and encouraging more conversation around that data. And we're working to determine if we're needing to develop problem-solving protocols to look at our work and specifically our progress monitoring data. But the last week, when our people, administrative leaders came together, we were feeling like we thought that was a tool we were going to need. But because of the work that we've been doing in these subcommittees, they feel like we've been able to navigate and not need a protocol to reflect back on, because we've been able to keep moving forward without coming to a barrier on decision making. So we are on track to complete our strategic actions by the end of the year and are eager to see how the actions we've taken impact our employee retention at the end of this year.
Thank you, pillar leaders. All this magic takes money and places to do it in, so that's where finance, facilities, and operations comes into play. Also making good progress on strategic actions, much of which the board has been involved in or apprised of. This year was the year to update our master facility study. You heard that report in January from ATS&R. We also updated our long-range enrollment projection with Applied Population Lab that was presented to the board in December. This is very interconnected with the work of the Elementary Boundary Review Committee that is making reasonable progress and do intend to wrap up all of their work by the end of March. And then there's some anticipation of celebrating some successes here. The Parent Caregiver Experience Survey is actually out right now. And the buildings will use the results of that as a communication tool in the areas of resource allocation and facility satisfaction. So we wanted to provide you that update tonight. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. We do intend to communicate this with staff in the coming days. Wanted you to see it first.
So I feel like I ask this a lot. Are we disaggregating the data so that we know? Are there certain segments of our kids that are not participating compared to maybe the general population? And when we do that, are we developing strategies then for how to support maybe if there's a segment that pops up as, yeah, we don't do anything outside of show up at school if we show up? Are we disaggregating so we kind of know?
So academically, yes. As far as collecting the information on students that participate, that's fairly new, isn't it? That we're collecting.
I would say there are certain pieces like panorama data is disaggregated. When you go into it and you can disaggregate with different groups, it's actually pretty slick, being able to go in and do that. That poll of students, I just have names. I didn't go any deeper than that, because
With panorama data, I mean, so you are looking at it, and I know cell size isn't going to be viable, so to speak, for every particular group, but are we seeing some groups that are showing up more than others?
Panorama doesn't go by groups the way, so like Panorama is a much more individualized piece. I mean, you can go into small groups, like a school can do that, but that district level is a little bit more difficult to get that information out of that.
So that they can see, are there some gender disparities? Is there some socioeconomic disparity or racial? I mean, I think we don't know about that if it's all happening, and I do think it's a really important piece that we strive to do more, because it can maybe help tell our story to improve, right? And you may be doing it, we just don't know.
we do on the academic side of things, especially when the state report card, because the state report card breaks down all data into the different groups. So, but sometimes presenting it can.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Of course, I understand, with it being new, probably just one of those pieces to put out there for striving toward.
Yes,
right?
And I think it's being done, we don't display that data or pull that data in that way because Panorama's data isn't used that way. So it depends on the data you're collecting, forward data is very different than Panorama data. So it kind of depends on what we're using that data for and how we would disaggregate it then for that.
I mean, I think, we've had a lot of feedback over time, right? That there's a lot of bullying and there's a lot of problems and a lot of it's racial. I mean, we've had that feedback that we don't, that we work very hard on, but I guess if that data can show, well, that's not what kids are indicating, you know, in the surveys, that would be helpful.
I mean, wouldn't say disagree, but like I follow expulsions with, you know, data, demographic data to see who we're seeing coming through there. ODR data, we do look at that, you know, are these students with, you know, a disability, are they students of a certain race, you know, that type of thing. Those are definitely disaggregated. Yes, so Mike Burrow and I have been disaggregating data very in depth since December with the civil rights report that we're required to do. Every district in the United States is required. So, and that breaks our demographic data down into the categories that they're specifically looking at, but it breaks it down very significantly so that we can look for trends that way too.
Yeah, I just think if that can fold into like a monitoring report or something somewhere so that people understand that we are paying attention to that and it does matter to us as a district and a board, I think that would be good.
Board members have any other questions? All right, thank you all for your presentation. Next is, yes, and your hard work. Elementary attendance boundary review update. Mr. Trowbridge.
Thank you. The committee held its third meeting on January 29th, focusing on the development of potential adjustments to elementary school attendance boundaries. The committee reviewed community feedback, established guidelines for boundary scenario development, and began drafting initial proposals. Key discussion points included public feedback, emphasizing minimal disruption for families, overcrowding concerns, and equitable resource distribution. The committee also reviewed foundational data from the ATS&R Master Facility Plan, the Applied Population Lab Enrollment Study to help guide their decision making. A draft scoring system was introduced to evaluate boundary proposals based on factors like community input, facility utilization, and transportation efficiency. All the members participated in an interactive mapping training session and then worked in groups to analyze current boundaries and develop initial proposals. Each group documented their rationale to ensure alignment with community priorities and technical guidelines. The meeting concluded with a review of next steps, including refining bounding scenarios and maintaining an inclusive and data-driven process. The next meeting, now scheduled for March 5th, will focus on further refining those proposals based on feedback. A public input session is scheduled for March 19th, and the committee will come back together for a 5th meeting on March 20th. This committee does remain committed to a transparent and collaborative approach to ensure that final recommendations reflect the needs of the entire community.
Board members have any additional questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Trowbridge. Next is a Booster Club facility project update. Steve Olson.
Mr. Thompson contacted me just to give you a brief update. Their fitness center committee continues to meet almost weekly. They are basically at this point focused on fundraising. They aren't near their goal yet, so nothing will happen until it reaches their goal, and they don't know at any point when it's going to happen. So just to let you know that they're still working on it, but there's no timetable set because it's all to be determined on the fundraising proposition.
Board members have any additional questions for Mr. Olson?
The only question I have is this. I've got 5 kids in the Chippewa Youth Wrestling program, which is massive. And they had their youth tournament this weekend at the high school. There was a ton of kids there. I don't know how many, but the gym was packed. I think they had 10 mats going. So, what are the chances we're gonna have a bigger space for this soon?
It's all, like I said, it's all about the fundraising. So that's the best answer I can give you because they're independent of the school board. And so they're working the best they can with the resources they have, but there is obviously no timetable. It's gonna be on their ability to fundraise. Unless you would like to write a check, that could probably make it happen quicker.
We just need one major donor to start.
Big check.
Are they still trying to explore the FEMA avenue or no?
I believe they're still looking at all different avenues at this point, you know, like I said, to get their goal. So they've got a ways to go, but nothing happens until they know that they've reached their financial commitments.
I have openly encouraged not to pursue the FEMA route. You look at politics right now and tell me that there's money available for a building in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, when North Carolina doesn't have money. Give up on that. Let's go back to the drawing board and get what we can afford. It's my opinion. But anyway, we gotta get that as soon as we can. Our facilities are extremely lacking for not only the space reasons you talk about, but many other reasons.
Another gym would be, it would just give more opportunity for more weekends, more time.
Yep.
I'm very surprised how big the program has grown. You know, there's got to be 40 or 50 kids that are, you know, I mean, very young, 10, 12 years old or less. And so it's a very good program. Like I said, I was amazed with how many families from all over showed up. So it was a great turnout, but definitely, even with 10 mats, it still took from 8 to 3, I think. So
Saw the cars in the parking lot on Sunday. It was crazy. So that happens every weekend through the hoops program or their Cardinal flight program or their volleyball, you know, so every weekend that those gyms are packed with community and stuff, which is what we're here for.
But you're teaching your kids to wrestle. A couple of years.
All right. Next is the Neola technical changes. Mr. Trowbridge.
Thank you. These are even more simplified versions of changes that policy. You all have previously agreed that these are things that need to go through a formal policy adoption. And we're just sharing them with you tonight as information so that you are aware.
All right, board members, have any questions about anything in particular in the policies? Or the technical changes? Otherwise, thank you, Mr. Trowbridge. 10.08, discussion of board activities. January 30th was the all-staff holiday and years of service recognition gathering. Peggy and Sherry, thank you for attending that. I could not make it. And so Sherry, it's my understanding you presented for me.
I got to do the welcome after Chad.
You got to do the welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for attending, Peggy.
It was a long time ago.
Seems like a long time ago.
Doesn't it? But the big thing here is, you know, this is something that Sarah and Kathy and, well, Kathy doesn't have staff, but, you know, and folks, like, they're putting in tons of effort to make this happen. And it's very appreciated.
And I will give the most credit to Angela and Kathy. We were asked to assist, and they took the lead on it and did a great job, and we were happy to help.
Excellent. Thank you. February 6th with a podcast recording for myself and Addison Zimmerman, and that was fun. Mr. Trowbridge was the moderator, and it's not on here, but he had done that himself. It was the week before, a month before.
I actually listened to it. It was surprisingly well done.
Appreciate that.
I think you should have Mr. Olson as a featured guest on your podcast.
No, he actually, like I said, he described his description of the board activities and the commitments and, you know, the pluses and minuses of being a board member, and so it was done well.
Addison did well as well, and because Chad did the previous one and then did the moderation, I threw her under the bus and said she was going to moderate the next one. But
She wouldn't mind, you know.
Hasn't occurred yet.
okay. All right, February 17th, teacher recognition at elementary schools, and Steve and Peggy both attended that. Tell us a little bit about that.
that was a fun day. So we went, I think, Chad and Sue and Sarah and Katie, yep. We went to each of the elementary schools. It was a professional development day. And for the training, the literacy training that they did that came out of Act 20, just as our staff is, they went above and beyond and rocked that training, and so they were recognized by the AIM Institute. And so Katie had handwritten notes with the pin that they received, and we handed them out to each of the teachers at the elementary school, so it was fun. And then they all had their picture taken with the one banner that was sent.
Yeah, it was fun to do. It's fun to recognize the effort that they put in. And, Katie said it really well. She says, you had to have 42 hours, but we know that every one of you here had much more than that. And it's just like anything else when we task you teachers with that, you're going to go over and above whatever your time was dedicated to. You went over and above just to make sure you did it right. So it was nice to recognize the effort.
Excellent. Thank you two for attending on our behalf. February 20th is Jim Falls Learning Walk. Steve and Peggy again.
I might have gotten in a little bit of trouble because we were working on electricity with stuff, and I really kind of got into it. And maybe I was helping my table a little too much, and maybe I forgot when we were supposed to go to the other room, and I looked around, and I was all by myself still working in the 4th grade class on trying to get our table going.
So these 4th graders had like a college level electricity program put together.
I don't know about that, but we were rocking it. I don't know what we got for
They
grades.
left you?
They're young, they don't know me yet, so it worked out just well.
Maybe they're beyond their years. Maybe they understood.
These were my people. It was fun. And as always, we enjoy doing this stuff, and it's good to recognize the efforts that the schools appreciate, doing this. And I always reminded a couple years ago, Jeff enlisted me to go to all the schools in the first day back and recognize them. We went through the high school. You were there too. But you left, if you remember right, when we went to the high school.
Some of us work.
Well, yeah. And I remember leaving the school building when we were at the high school, and we were approached by a couple of veteran teachers, and they thanked me, and they said, this is the first time we've seen a board member actually come through and see what we're doing. And so those are the efforts that we have to make, because I think it makes them appreciate that we appreciate what they do even more.
Appreciate that. I'm always amazed how quickly you took up electricity as soon as it came about. Peggy?
Yeah, so it's a great opportunity. We got to see science, which was our monitoring report, and then we also got to see a little bit of math as well. And there was also a group of kids who had additional. They went in with the library where they were working on like science projects to extend their learning, and so they were like giving like a problem or some guidelines, and then they just kind of went on their own to build their stuff, and yeah, it was really neat.
Just for final disclosure, I might have mentioned to Chad, when we went to the math room, I told Chad that I probably don't belong here, so I'm going back to the science team.
We kept him out of the art room too, so he didn't make a mess.
And not in the gym either, right?
Yeah. So when we send a particular board member, we also have to send someone to keep
Back
an eye
up.
on them.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? All right, 10.08 is discussion of board activities, or discussion of meeting, excuse me. Anybody have any questions or comments regarding this meeting? All right, 11.02, future agenda items and upcoming events. March 10th to the 14th is spring break. District offices are closed. March 14th at 8 a.m., Coffee and Commerce at Neeson's Caribou Coffee. March 19th at 6:15 p.m., EBRC Public Session number 2 at the Chippewa Falls Middle School Auditorium. March 20th at is the Board Learning Walk Cardinal Transition Academy. March 24th at 4:30 is Business After Hours, Market on River. March 25th, regular monthly board meeting. And to be determined, a special board meeting for potential elementary boundary change. Angela will send out a doodle poll. Anything that's missing from the upcoming events?
This isn't technically a board event, but I just want to invite/encourage you all to come to the Harmonic Showcase Friday at 7 o'clock. It's free. The middle school show choir will be there. They've got placed in every competition they were in. And the Harmonics placed in 3 out of the 4. And at Memorial, they finished higher than any show choir here has ever done before. So they're very talented.
Much like the Booster Club and the hockey game that's going on, I think that is a
Right.
board activity.
Well, there you go.
But it,
Update.
Ms. Kern, do you have an update?
One. With
Under
2 minutes to go, yeah, under 2 minutes
Well,
to
we're
go.
gonna get you out of here with those 2 minutes. It reminds me, so it wasn't here for the last meeting. You guys took it over. I don't think you guys got it done by 8:45. We need a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Martin, second.
Second.
Second by McKillop. All those in
He
favor?
seconded it.
I got it done earlier than we were
All
supposed
those in favor
to
say
though.
aye.
Right, Chad?
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.
Got it done earlier than we were supposed